payroll in the program. Metropolitan Housing Board of Commissioner meeting for Thursday, September 21st is now in session. To a roll call, please. This is
Chairman Lee Lindsay.
here.
Vice Chair Lita Anthony.
Here.
Commissioner Brandy Peterson. Commissioner Kerry Wright.
Here.
I see you here. So Commissioner Lewis Jackson.
Here.
Cancel you in. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Okay, you have before you the agenda for today.
Motion to approve the agenda for today's meeting.
Second.
The agenda has been approved. The vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I'll give you a few minutes to approve our minutes. Is the special meeting in here, or?
So this is for July and August,
Okay.
and still working on the special for September 6th. And so they're divided by a green sheet of paper, if you're wondering where one stops and where the other one begins.
Recording stopped.
Good.
Recording in progress.
Motion to approve the minutes from the July 20th and August 23rd meetings.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed, the minutes have been approved. I have two participation cards in front of me. The first one is Ms. Vicky Silver. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, once again, I'm very thankful that you allowed me to move to Orchards at Mapleville. It's a wonderful place. It's safe, finally, and we have no cigarette smoke, finally. We were living in a Hoffman property, having to deal with cigarette smoke when they had advertised as non-smoking. But I found out later through an employee that that was just for insurance purposes of lowering the insurance. But anyway, let me get to the point. My point is this. I love all of the people down here that are working to help us people, all of the people on the board. And I pray for each and every one of them. And especially I love Miss Erica Benedicto. She's been so wonderful. Finally, a human being with compassion, okay? And we've seen so many other things in other housing districts. For example, Atlanta right now, they received a failure. Why don't we just get together and help these people that need help? These people that are trying to help us. That's all I want to say. Thank you very much. Oh no, I have one last thing to say. Please process my annual recertification because I'm sure I'm paying a little bit too much for it. Please help me if you can. I have medical deductions. Thank you very much. And
Thank you.
God bless all of you.
All right, we appreciate your prayers.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Carpenter.
So you don't have to, do you want to extend my podium?
Whatever makes you comfortable.
Okay, I was worried about the microphone.
Okay.
Thanks. I'll just be safe.
Thank you for recognizing me today. I want to encourage this board with its continued progress towards meeting the challenge by the Department of Housing and Urban Development that this is a troubled entity and also in meeting the attempts to provide the records for the financial entity, the Metropolitan Housing Alliance and the Arkansas Community Housing Corporation. I don't have that right. Central Arkansas Housing Corporation. On behalf of the city, I'd like to make an FOI here today verbally for all of those, a copy of all of those financial records dating back to 2019 for both entities. The CAUC, because it is set up in its bylaws as actually being a member of MHA, and I have now seen documentation that CHUC has received MHA funds, which means it triggers the Arkansas Freedom of Information Act. Having said that, and having heard numerous people hand me things and say, I want every chip of paper that you've ever written in the city for the last 10 years, I do not expect that within 3 working days. I do want to have a copy of that information in my office because we're reviewing it also. The other thing I want to say is to let you know that I made a plea the last time, and I appreciated the actions that this board took in deciding that they wanted to have a full and complete audit for the year 2019. I also made the key about not changing horses in the middle of the stream. I know that there has been sent letters as to a hearing to be held next Tuesday that deals with certain commissioners, but I want to reiterate that I think it is important from my conversations with HUD and my conversations with members of the board of directors, 6 of whom last Tuesday night made affirmative statements to this effect, that the actual employees of MHA really do need to stay in place until we can get to a final analysis of all of the economic business. And I think that's an important matter. I want to bring that to your attention. I know that I'm bringing it to your attention because somebody called and said, y'all are going to go into executive session today to make some personnel decisions. And you're kind of at a conflict because, unfortunately, one member has resigned because of being disqualified because they are no longer a tenant within the housing authority properties. A disqualification means they can't go into executive session with you anyway. But the real key is that we need to keep as many things as clean a record. I don't know what's going to happen Tuesday night. Tuesday night may turn in that Wednesday morning this will still be the same board of the Metropolitan Housing Alliance, and I think it is critical that the Department of Housing and Urban Development and that the Office of Representative Hill recognize that we are not going out and changing things right now while we're trying to get a grip on taking care of this, because as Ms. Filber said, y'all are doing what you can to help the people that need it the most. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. On behalf of this board, there was never any inclination to your last comments to us was to hold steady, and that's the way we intended to go. So I don't know, I think that had to be a room. We never.
Just to respond briefly to you,
Yes, sir.
unfortunately, I live in an office where
I heard
you
that.
get things that were a friend of a friend or
Yes, sir.
a cousin of somebody
Yes,
who
sir.
lives in Rome,
Yes, sir.
and I tried to dismiss them. But every once in a while, they say something like, fire truck's about to hit the building, and I can't dismiss it without addressing it. That's the only reason I addressed it today.
Thank you, sir. With that being said, has anyone resigned on the board? None. Then we need to, this board needs to choose a course of action about the letter and the charges made against us for inefficiency. And so that needs to be discussed on how we will proceed, either individually or collectively, to address this issue. I'm open for discussion.
We have 2 presenters, Mr. Chairman, we have 2 presenters.
Say again?
We have 2 presenters, why 2 going into?
Oh, no, we counsel.
We counsel those?
Those 2, yes, I should have said that, yeah. Commissioner, right, anything to be said?
What are you leaning toward? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, that we can, as it said, we can either be individually interviewed by the commission, or we can choose to have someone to represent us.
I prefer to be individual, interviewed myself. That's what I prefer.
Okay. Any other discussions?
I mean, you and Lita, I don't, y'all's decision how you want to take your course of action. You know, that's my choice.
And we understand. Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
the board and the agency has an attorney and contract for just such a time as this. So I have a motion to appoint our attorney, as is his duty, to represent those members of the board who choose to be represented. And that attorney is Attorney Sylvester Smith. And I understand where you're coming from to meet that need.
I have a question though, if no offense, sir, but I've never heard of Sylvester Smith. Is he a CAC? Is he attorney of record for CAC, MHA?
MHA.
And when did all this happen?
Before you got here.
Yeah,
And there's minutes and agenda
that
and...
is correct, yeah.
Mr. Smith, would you address, and he did address your concerns earlier on.
Yeah, which he came
pertaining
to some financial issues, that's
accusations and
exactly
stuff
right.
that you had. But
Yeah,
Mr.
you
Smith,
missed
would
it.
you please, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry if I overstepped.
If that's okay.
Am I recognized, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, you are recognized.
First of all, Commissioner, to respond to your question, yeah, there was an RFP put out. My firm responded, an engagement letter followed suit all prior to your appointment. I have a contract with this organization to provide legal services, and I said I'd make myself available at the direction of the organization. And so if the Board of Commissioners directs me to represent the commissioners, then I will offer those services. You are being alleged to have breached obligations in your official capacity. All of these charges relate to your official capacity. And so I believe that it would be within the realm of the agreement that we have if the board so directs. And so I stand ready to serve if that is the board's, the commission's direction given to me. Now, with regard to the allegations, it's like anything else. Everyone is innocent in this country until proven guilty. And so I believe that these commissioners deserve a defense, and I stand ready to mount that defense. I also see, like a lot of instances in things that happen in the city of Little Rock, that there's more to this picture than the accusations. And so I don't want to get into that here in a public setting, especially with your prosecutor sitting right there. But I do believe that there are some legal theories that we can deploy in which we can provide bright, shining light onto what has been done here, the efforts that have been made, and kind of the challenges, headwinds you've run into. I find it very interesting that Mr. Carpenter has admonished you several times before, let's not change things. Let's kind of get through these issues with HUD, because there are some legitimate threats to this organization. Yet, and still, the posture of the city is, well, let's just turn over the entire board and, I guess, act without a commission to resolve these, or maybe down to one commissioner. So I do believe that there are other ways to do this. As your counsel, I think I would be ill-advised to say that these are not relevant issues, to say that the city doesn't have legitimate concerns. I believe that they do. However, as your lawyer, your advocate, and as someone who's deeply concerned about housing in this community, I believe the prudent posture for the city to take would be to follow the same advice that their lawyer gave you, which is to stand pat, at least for 30, 60, 90 days, as you respond to the timeline HUD's given you, and as you start to move the ball down the field. But I'm not a member of the city board that has final authority over these matters. So I do believe that you have every right to mount a defense. You should mount a defense. and I stand prepared to represent all of you, including you, Commissioner Wright, if you allow me to. And so I'd be happy to talk with you about that one-on-one if you're interested.
Questions?
I don't have a question, but I would like to second on Commissioner Anthony. I believe it would be good.
This is a motion? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be good to point that we have a lawyer to represent us because of the legal standpoint of it. We have our hands full already. So I think it would be better for us to be represented by Mr. Smith in that term because, like you said, we have our hands full already. And for the legal language that would be needed to talk to, to talk to the commissioner. So I agree that I'll be represented by him.
That's a second. Vote?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
So moved. The ayes have it.
May I just make one more statement if I can, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I've been with you for about a year and a half, and a lot of these allegations, they predate me. But I do want to just say this, as a free American, I think that I have a right to my opinion. This executive director that you have, I feel like, as the lady said, has her heart in the right place. And it really saddens me, just as an individual, that someone would try to drive a wedge between you and suggest that
Thank you, sir.
the board was trying to terminate her. I want to be really clear, the chairman and I, we talk pretty regularly about things. I've heard no whisper or inclination to do that. And Mr. Carpenter, I appreciate you, sir, and all your years of experience. But I would say that if these folks are suffering from anything, it's the death of 1,000 cuts. And we have a hearing with you on Tuesday, and then you're wanting 4 years worth of records, I guess, by Thursday. 3 days from today, that would be.
For I clarified,
Yeah.
I know that that's not a 3-day turnaround from FOI.
Yeah, he said.
The city, if I may.
Go ahead, I'm
The
sorry.
city wants the records because there are serious allegations, and we've also heard word that if funds are not available, the city is going to be looked at. We've got to prepare that defense too.
That makes sense. Yes, sir. And so, but I'm sure you can understand when you're staring down the barrel of a pretty significant hearing on Tuesday to have a FOI dropped in your lap on the Thursday before, when you've got all these other issues that you very appropriately raised. That's part of the challenge here that I've seen. And everybody is well-intended, and everybody wants us to be successful. But there's a lot of hands in the pot and a lot of masters who try to serve and a lot of competing interests that all happen at the same time. And I think as the story is told, we'll see that sometimes the well-intended outside authorities can contribute to the challenges of meeting the day-to-day obligations for all these folks here that are trying to do the right thing.
We are in agreement, and I'm sure we will cooperate on getting the records. And my wife will tell you every April the 14th, she's screaming at me, and I'm saying, but it takes a long time to get these together.
Yes, sir.
I have a question,
Yes, sir.
Counselor. So is MHA footing the bill for you, sir, on this representation?
It would, sir, and I'm glad you bring that up because I think it's appropriate for me to advise MHA that my recommendation would be that these services be paid with unrestricted funds, if possible. This is a gray area. The guidance that we have on this is called the HUD Litigation Manual, and then the HUD Procurement Policies, and a few CFRs. I've researched this, and it is a bit of a gray area. And depending on what happens with that meeting, and then what happens with some of these audits and some other things, HUD could come back and have some concerns about this expenditure. But it's very much akin to playing Monday morning quarterback because we have to make decisions based upon what we know now. And what we know now is individuals are acting in their official capacity. They've been accused in their official capacity. And but for them being commissioners on this board, yourself included, they wouldn't have a legal expense come Tuesday and a 10-day window to figure all this out. And so I believe that it's appropriate, even if it's just, sir, to make sure that whatever happens with these commissioners, the public confidence in this process is supported so that they see that everybody is being treated equitably. Mr. Carver's a talented lawyer. You may or may not know this, but he leads what is arguably the second biggest law firm in the state with the number of lawyers he has. None of you should have to go up against that on your own. And so I think it's appropriate that you have legal advice. Okay. Am I on for a legal update? If so, I can cover that now, or should we kick that can down the road?
No, any objections?
Okay.
Let's do it.
So there are several matters that I'm representing the agency on. The big one is the ITEX lawsuit, where ITEX is suing us for breach of contract. We've all agreed that we have some defenses there. We're working through that. We're having some discovery issues right now, and how we're talking about all this, I want to deal with this on the record. Everybody has, from the director, her IT person, commissioners have really worked hard to meet their discovery obligations, but we're in a bit of an issue right now because some things that are a little opposing counsel doesn't agree with the quality of our responses. And so I'll be following up with Eric and her team. I mean, she's met with me probably 4 times about this, one more time. However, we may take a little bit of a hit on that, and I don't mind saying that in public, because of the HUD response, this issue. And so we kind of are having to fry these fish in their order of size and scope. And so we'll get through this next 7 days or so, and then we'll circle back on that.
What's the main basis of their suit, sir?
We had a dream of making money. And that dream died like a raisin in the sun, and someone should pay. Now, that's the real answer. The legal answer is that there was an agreement for them to do a RAD conversion on some of our properties. And HUD basically advised this commission that that agreement had timed out. And I mean, you've been a commissioner at other places, so you know very well that HUD puts very strict limits on how long contracts can be for. And so, I don't know if you guys ever did RAD.
No, we didn't.
They're extremely complicated, and this one went on over several years. Well, the contract can only be for, I believe, 5 years. And so we got to the point where that underlying contract with this vendor was hitting its 5 years. And so HUD directed this board that you've got a couple of options. And you won't, some of us have contentious relationships with HUD. You won't hear me speak about them that way. But they said, look, you've got a couple of options. The best one is you need to rebid this, okay? And so the board did the appropriate thing. They stopped work with that vendor. They rebid it. Vendor came along. Now the original vendor is suing us basically for the money that they would have made had the deal gone through.
Were developer fees in this at all?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And they would have been entitled to the developer fees if the project had reached a successful conclusion. Unfortunately, it didn't. But, you know, in the United States of America, anybody can sue anybody for any reason. And so once we get the discovery issue solidified, we intend to file for summary judgment and see what the judge says about it. But as you can imagine, sir, you've been here at this table several months now. Between the HUD issue, I mean, there's just been a lot of significant issues for us to try to deal with. And we did respond to their discovery request, but they're not satisfied. And they want some things that we don't have. And we've had turnover of staff. Ms. Benedicto wasn't here when these things happened, so she's got limited institutional memory. And the staff that was really dealing with it here, most of them are gone. And so we've had some issues rounding up some documents. Anything else? All right, so I think the rest of it can wait until next month, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman,
sir.
unless you want to know more. And
No, sir.
I appreciate your time.
Any other questions? Okay,
How many lawsuits do we have?
let's do this.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, all right. Is that what you?
To my knowledge, that I can think of off the top of my head, because again, as you can imagine, this
Sure.
issue with the City of Little Rock is forefront of my mind. There's the suit that I just mentioned. There is a lawsuit for an issue where someone alleges that a tree on our property fell on their vehicle. We expect that to be dismissed pretty soon. And then there is a lawsuit that relates to the first one that I told you about, the ITEX suit, because there was a vendor that did some work for ITEX when they were managing some of our properties, and that vendor has now sued MHA, because a lot of lawyers believe you just sue everybody. And we're in negotiations about that now, but we believe that's ultimately ITEX's responsibility, and if ITEX feels like they should know it, then that should be wrapped up in their claims against us. But we didn't have any relationship with this vendor. We didn't know the vendor existed. We can't demonstrate that they were ever on the property. And so, you know, it's one of those things where it's probably cheaper to just pay it, right? But then now you've got another HUD finding because you paid something that you had no contractual obligation to pay, and there's no real nexus between this entity and that small business. And so that's why we're in the posture of litigating that.
What else?
That's it on top of my head, those three
That's it.
matters.
We have a legal section, and what I'd like to keep on the legal issue right now, if Director Benedicto could give us an update on what we have pending, since we're in that vein.
Because those are the things that my office
Is that
has.
right? I got you.
Now, did that vendor place a lien on our property?
No, I mean,
Okay, so
Typically,
let me-
they will.
Let me think, I don't believe that that vendor has. And any lien that would be placed is subject to being resolved at the conclusion of the litigation. So I'm less concerned about that issue.
Okay. So Chairman, we have, and to answer your question, how many, I can add 3 to the list. So Candy Thomas versus Little Rock Housing Authority. That was recently amended to include the Little Rock Housing Authority. In this second amended complaint, the plaintiff alleges with her counsel that CHC is the alter ego of Little Rock Housing Authority. MHA will respond with the motion to dismiss.
So that was originally a CAHC lawsuit?
no,
That's
that
my
correct, or
understanding. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
And
Okay.
there's insurance defense on that one. I don't have that case at this moment.
Oh, okay, okay.
And I don't know if you remember Director, Commissioner Wright. At one time, disgruntled employees used our insurance like it was a slot machine. They were upset. They made a claim to the insurance company, and the insurance company had the ability to weigh things, and if it was going to cost them less to pay that individual, then they paid them. There was a little more at stake for this board. It's called the truth, because we knew that employees were making claims that we had evidence was not true. So at the top of the legal update, the MHA Board of Commissioners maintained their position that there will be no settlement with former employments litigation until there is a court hearing. So all the truth comes out. So there may be some claims against our insurance, and because, like I said, it was easy for the insurance company to just say, we don't want to spend this much law time. Our insurance company is out of Georgia and some other places, and they waive the expense, and it's just, as they say, it's cheaper to keep them. So they paid them, and we decided that we no longer wanted that practice because people were getting paid for frivolous lies. So now, and that letter went out to all of our insurance vendors, that we must have a court action before a payment is made.
Okay. And so the second case I'd like to reference is the Jarman versus Little Rock Housing Authority. And in terms of an update on that, so MHA obtained summary judgment the summary judgment was in favor of MHA for the federal whistleblower protection claim. Where we are now is that MHA's counsel will move forward with the summary judgment motion on their claim. This is in state now. So what's, the claim for wrongful discharge under the Arkansas public policy exception is pending in state court right now. And so again, this is with the insurance. Rebecca Young is the counsel with that. And we've got the third one wrapping up with Jada Johnson versus Little Rock Housing Authority. And we are in the discovery process with that particular case.
Another disgruntled.
Through the insurance.
So total, how many?
6.
6?
So with
I
that
have to read
three,
it through the insurance company.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
How many have been
Miss-
lost?
since I've been here, MHA has prevailed in all of them. I
All of
don't, yeah. And I can pull the record and email that out after the board meeting. I've just kind of take them off the list as they're, get behind us. If I'm going by memory, Nash. No, we did have one that had a very modest settlement.
Okay, well, thank you for answering my questions.
Mr. Chairman, before I
Yes.
leave, I just want to clarify, and I think it's important that you maybe clarify this motion. On my defense of the commissioners, my recommendation would be that your authorization for my services include a petition to circuit court, a subsequent petition to the Arkansas Court of Appeals, and a subsequent petition to the Arkansas Supreme Court if necessary. The reason I suggest that is because there's not a lot of legal guidance for us on this issue. This statute that the city is employing to remove you is very rarely used. There's one case that really is the guiding light on that, and that case is about 40 years old. And so if things don't go the way that you want on Tuesday, I'd like to be immediately authorized to start the petition for judicial review because there'll be a cloud over subsequent authorization that may come after that. So I just want to make sure I put that out there. And if that is your directive to me, I think it needs to be included in the motion.
Okay.
The motion, since I'm the maker of the motion, I think that Robert's rule says that I have to amend my motion to include the amendment. Thank you for sitting on the front row so I don't have to strike. And I definitely want to be correct with you in the room. I'd like to amend the original motion that our attorney, Sylvester Smith, be allowed to represent this
Proceed.
board in the hearing on Tuesday to, as an addition, add any subsequent filings, petitions, suits that might be incurred as a part of the actions taken on Tuesday night. That is my motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All opposed?
No.
Ayes have it. Can I get a vote? All in favor? Thank you.
One no.
One no. Ayes have it. All right, we will proceed with our agenda from here. Director Benedicto, please.
Okay, so I'm going to ask Patrice Brumfield to come forward and to give the HCV Section 8 report.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
My HCB progress reads as follows. For mainstream, our allocated vouchers for that program is 156. Units leased is 94. We are down by 4%, but have hopes that those numbers will change. Elm Street, we have 52 vouchers allocated for that program. We are still at 38 units leased, so we didn't have any changes there. EHV is one of our high focuses for, well, it's been since I've been in this position. We have 95 vouchers allocated for that program, and we are at 82%, which our percent changed by 11%, which is real good. FYI, 25 allocated, 11 units leased, up by 22%. Our VASH program, 179 allocated, and for, we have 164 leased, which is up by 1%. In reference to our PBV units, Cumberland Manor is at 100%. Metropolitan Village, we didn't see any changes from the past 2 months. We're still at 13 units leased. Madison Heights, there was no change there. We're at 75% units leased. Cumberland Towers, we have 171 units leased, and we're up by 1%. Paris Towers, 235 units leased. The percent didn't change too much there. And Power Towers, we are 1% increase, 155 units allocated or leased. For August, we've had 4 referrals sent to Madison Heights and waiting for those units to be leased. And for Elm Street, we've had 2. And it's also waiting for those 2 units to be leased. I also wanted to give a brief update on our OCAPs. We've had from the time I started, I think it was some kind of issue with the OCAP being signed or however. Considering we did get it signed in a timely manner, we have completed 2 of the towers. The OCAP payment has been put in the system with an exception of 1 tower that should be complete by the end of this month. Y'all have any questions in reference to any of that?
What about vacancy payments for Gorman and Company?
We have not completed the vacancy payments at this time, but we are in the process of working on it.
And our biggest challenge with that is really just needing that uninterrupted time to vet all of those vacancies.
I'm sorry.
I said the challenge with that is just needing that uninterrupted time to vet all the vacancies that they've turned in to be paid for, because that vetting is critical.
And that's the reason why we did not adopt vacancy payments in the Sunset project.
I'm so glad.
I would ask that, just as a part of our relationship with Gorman, that we communicate with them, because in our connect calls, the OCAP as well as the vacancy payments is always part of their discussion. So if we are communicating with them, that's fine, but it's just a contingency for them.
I'm sure that, y'all would agree that as far as the vacancy payments, and you correct me if I'm wrong, if it's vacant based on the property not doing whatever it is needs to be done on their end, then we're not responsible for paying for those vacancies. So.
Not just quite. And there should be a vacancy report in every step, every requirement that they're supposed to make should be a part of that report. So if they're not making that report, then yeah, we can have some leeway there. But we need to, and I know what a hard time we've had in getting those reports, but we just need to reiterate that those reports are necessary, whether or not they're advertising, whether or not there's more actual real improvement, how long somebody's been dead, and all that kind of stuff. So we should be reiterating those types of reports.
Right, and so, we were doing some research on the vacancy payments, and that report is really supporting what Patrice is saying. That help establishes whether these vacancies are a result of actions taken or not taken by Gorman and Company. And if, in fact, they are somehow culpable for those vacancies, then we should not have to pay out for them. We do know that at one point, and we're working through with Kelly Brophy and team with this. So one of the delays, and they are aware, we have been in communication with, is trying to get caught up with those prior OCAPs. So Patrice, I'm really glad to hear that 2 of the towers have been entered in and 1 more to go. After that, we can really power through those vacancy payments. It will take some time, but we will get there.
Now, what is this that's attached?
Oh, okay. Patrice, I can speak to that. So the Elm Street, the SRO does fall under the Section 8 program, and I made some notes that certainly didn't want to forget that today there is a September 21 deadline for us to turn in a report after the monitoring that occurred of the Elm Street property. I did submit that report last night, and I did indicate in the report that I would include an addendum today because the vendor would not have the environmental review done until today. He was a little bit behind. So I can say that it did hit my inbox this morning. So I will add that and get that over to HUD so we will be in compliance with our deadline. So that will get the agency into compliance with our SRO review. So that's what that
And
is.
this is the backup to all of that.
Right. I spoke with Ms. Taylor, who led that, and she asked me to include the backup documentation, and that's what that is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Chairman, if you're ready, I will ask Ms. Bindia Crump to come forward to give the public housing report. And in your binder, it's following the SRO letter and backup documentation. Should be separated by green tab.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Yeah,
Good
no.
morning.
All right, so I'm going to speak on the OIG review that is coming. Well, the due date is going to be on October the 2nd for some items that have to be turned in. I'll be submitting a few items on tomorrow, September the 22nd. The ACOP plan, the PHA unit inventory, preventive maintenance plan, a listing of all of the current units that be in our inventory, the rent rolls for Madison Heights, Madison Heights 1 and 2 for May 2022 through December 22. We'll be also submitting the Madison Heights vacant unit inspections, the homes at Granite Mountain, and Legacy Senior Homes rent rolls, current rent rolls. The maintenance log for homes at Granite Mountain and Legacy, and the vacant unit inspection. Next on my list, we have the public housing goals. Right now, my plan is to act aggressively so that we can, get our public housing into compliance. For the first week, I'll be meeting with the public, the residents of the public housing, just to be so they can know the liaison here at MHA. I'll be completing occupancy checks. Week 2, I'll do the other half of the occupancy checks. And that's just so that we can compare our files to know, that we have the correct people in the unit, so we can know how to proceed with doing our back research that we have to get in compliance as soon as possible. On our 3rd week, we're going to schedule appointments with all of the residents so that we can, we're kind of behind I'm thinking back to 2021 on our research. So at the time of our meeting with the residents, we'll be doing all of the ARs and IRs to get everybody caught up at that same, at that appointment. And then after we get all of the income documents and everything from our residents, we'll be entering them into the PIC system. My goal is to have us caught up by the end of the year so that we can start fresh in January. The other part of my report is gonna be on our NSP2 homes. We have 26 total units. 19 of those units are occupied, and we have 7 vacant units. Anyone have any questions in regards to public housing?
Well, when you say, do you have a time frame as far as starting this?
Well, we know we have a meeting coming up on Tuesday, and with CHC and possibly the property managers.
Okay.
So I think we'll be able to establish, because we
After
want to do that
you'll be
in
able to
tandem
move
with.
forward with
Yes,
whatever
sir.
you're gonna do. Yeah, I got you. All right.
Our initial meeting produced a lot of what is in the report today from the property managers who have
So
been
that's
keeping
behind.
those records.
Anything else? Thank you, Ms. Brown.
All right.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you, India. All right, so I'll move on, Chairman, to the finance report, and in Lamont Wembley's absence, Alpha Russell, if you'll come forward.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've communicated with Forvis on the status of the 2019 financial audit and must have all documentation submitted by October 15th. We're still working closely with Novogradac on facility audits. We're also working on the responses for the QAD, the QAD report. And we do also have a summary of the August revenue and expenditures following, as well as bank account and capital funds report. AC,
Excuse me. Excuse me. On the QAD report, will the commissioners see the response before it's released?
Absolutely.
A draft.
Absolutely. I certainly don't want to turn anything in. You all have not seen it.
Getting kind of ahead, but let me ask you, so one of the things that we talked about in last meeting is some year-to-date expenditures by these departments.
Mhm.
Where are we on that? And what's the hold up on that? Do you know?
So, I mean, Alpha could speak to it, but I know that Lamont stated that we would be prepared January moving forward, but it's quite a bit to enter in. Now, he did say he will be here tomorrow, because he know there's a meeting with us tomorrow, so you can ask those real specifics on where he is on that. He did not intend to actually miss today, but,
So a budget, we're gonna have to develop a budget for
absolutely.
FY.
He,
So-
yes, he has already
Okay.
printed a framework for that,
Okay.
and he understands that that will happen in tandem with
Okay.
you all as well, and
We're
I'm
gonna-
sure he'll
we're moving
discuss that.
Toward getting those totals to
Yes,
mesh
sir.
with what we've got so far.
Yes, sir.
okay, your HCV,
And will we, I'm sorry, will it be a month-by-month basis eventually?
Yes, it will.
In other words,
And I can
here's the
show
budget.
you what the more conventional reports look like.
Mhm.
And because you haven't seen one since you've been here, and let you take a look at it, but it would be. So,
Yeah.
What we're doing now
It would be
is,
like, what's budgeted, what was spent
Yeah.
this month,
It's like we
and
do.
what our year-to-date, what our year-to-date
Exactly.
expenditures, and then we can use those expenditures for our budgeting for
Uh-huh.
20.
forecasting.
So we will be timely with our budget getting in by the end
I
of the
think we have
year.
to.
Well,
Can't afford any more,
No, late.
late anything, so. So, yeah, he's already talked about it and mentioned it at Lamont Wembley.
okay.
And but tomorrow, I'm sure he will share more details, but at the same time, I think he needs to be aware of the process with the board too, with the finance person, which is Chairman Lindsay.
And you're invited to that, if you would like, tomorrow.
I'll be out of town.
Oh,
Thank you.
yeah, that's right.
But
That's
thanks.
right. Okay.
Can I call you?
Yes, you can. Get
Get an update on
I'm
it?
serious, yeah. Yeah.
And actually, later on today, he said he would be available so he can call in if you have some questions that you just need to have answered today. He's kind of had a medical thing to tend to. But I will say, along the finance lines, we did have a meeting with Quality Assurance, QID, on yesterday. And, yes, sir, and so one of the things that, because we gotta get this corrective action plan submitted, we wanna make sure it's acceptable, and it's really new to all of us. And, so Mary Ann Krieger and Lavon LeMay, who are the HUD reviewers who led this up, they were on the call, as well as Alpha and myself and Lamont Wembley and a few others. He wanted to know how some of the numbers were
Okay.
arrived.
Yes,
That's
sir.
right.
Yes, sir.
So that we could respond appropriately and make the appropriate corrective actions. What was asked of me in order for Mr. LeMay to share that scheduled detail for some of these global numbers is to submit a request in writing for him to send a link, and he'll send us a secure link, and it'll open up all the calculations, all the financial calculations for what we requested. Lamont requested for Table 1 in the QAD, which had to do with the amount in the Section 8 program that was owed. So I did submit that request on yesterday to Mr. Levon with the QAD team, and we should be getting a link back, which will really help detail how that particular number was
Where those
aggregated.
numbers came from.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then in return, we should be able to track it down to the different accounts that they are in those expenditures that were
That
charged.
detail was gonna help tremendously. Just looking at those global numbers, it's like, okay, how was that arrived at?
Let me
So-
ask you this. So, when they finished this report, did they meet with you?
No, so.
They just
that was-
did the report and out the door?
So when the report that was emailed out,
Uh-huh,
Exit conference,
yeah.
or review of what they found, or what they will appear in the report before the report is actually done, is normally what is happening in
And this is a question that I would like to ask our attorney, is that,
many of the points that they brought up pertaining to some of the funds that was given reference to.
Yeah.
There was enough documentation to clear that up before they actually made that part of their findings.
yeah,
It looks as if, and that's why I'm asking about your response, because if they're in need of documentation, especially about the $5.4 billion, that was a MHA loan to the project at Sunset, which MHA totally owned that property. So there's a lot of background to what actually happened. So I'm just asking, and I don't know how all that information is being gathered here at the agency, but because a lot of this happened before you got here, those deals were cut as part of the RAD and as part of how capital fund money can be spent. That money can be spent in a RAD conversion because it all consists of modernization of a property. And so there are just things in there that shouldn't have been a question, because it's clearly explained. But I can understand if it may have not had the correct entry or the documentation, that it could have been perceived as being one thing and it's not.
Or just not coded correctly. I say coded, but whatever, however we do it. My next question is, and Director Benedict, if you can, please follow up and let us know about this. That in a case like this, where we got that report, that to me seems to be a working document. That's something that we are working on, which would exclude it from FOI. I don't, I'm just saying, and I would like to get some clarification on that. So if it is, and I'm not trying to hide anything, but I think that we should have had an opportunity, to peruse that report and say, well, this, it looks funny and that sort of thing before it goes out. And, that in all fairness to you, in all fairness to the board, all fairness to the public, because there is a negative perception there that, hey, they spent this or they did that. So that, and I really would like some feedback on what is considered a working document, and when it is available for the public.
Okay.
Okay? I'm sorry, Ms. Allen. Go ahead.
So your revenues are as follows: ACV revenue, $1,640,501.
Okay.
Central office cost center, $106,017. And NSP2, revenue for NSP2, $4,063. And then your expenditures for HCD were $93,235. COCC, $125,124.37. Then your NSP2 expenditures total $3,712.82.
When we meet with, or when you meet with Mr. Wayne, there will be a report, layout report.
To look at.
I'll have to ask him, because I think what the report that you have is what he's able to do with the system right now. Now, I know that TinMass offers something, we are in that conversion, and we have had, our meeting calls with the Yardi team to go ahead and get us over the hump on the finance piece. But I'll certainly ask him.
I noticed in here, proceeds from the sale of property,
Well,
and it had to have been earlier this year. What was that for? Anybody know?
I don't think we've sold any.
We did.
I think that's what,
Yeah, it's listed right,
where? That's
right there.
budgeted. Our intent, we have property. And
Oh, so you budgeted
that was budgeted that, and we
to sell
have not sold any.
Oh, I
Yeah,
missed it, my bad.
yeah. So, and that's something that's another area that, we need to address to get rid of some of that property. Okay.
Is there any way that Mr. Wembley, this report can be sent out to us earlier so that we can have an opportunity to go over it before we get to the meeting?
So that's been our goal, as I think it was Mr. Smith actually that mentioned earlier, it's just the volume of so many things have just, it's been the demand. But the goal has been to get things out earlier. Fortunately for Mr. Wembley, when he started right in the middle of, everything. He has quite a learning curve, and of course, we're trying to meet all these deadlines and QADs and OIGs and all of that, and so he's having to learn very quickly. But I tell you, committing to these HUD reviews,
Yeah.
he has his own level of time consumption. But yes, ma'am, we can certainly do that.
So,
And I understand you need to be able to consume and digest these numbers.
Especially when we get to a point where we're actually examining and being able to forecast.
at this time, that's what I was trying, yeah, we need,
And that's, we just don't have enough time when we get it on the day.
Yeah.
I apologize, my son is just showing out.
What else do you have, ma'am?
well, can we look at the capital fund report right quick, and we may just need, so, this figure, dispersed 3,683,000, that all, is that,
It's
right, that is the red that has been paid out, is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
Is that the first drawdown?
that's exactly right, I mean, that is, right?
Mm-hmm. That's the sunset red.
And it's now time for the second drawdown
For red.
Yeah,
for the Sunset Project.
which would be, is that the balance, the grant balance?
The grant balance is.
I see it's 3, but,
Yes, 3,140,000.
but that's where that would come from,
Yes, for the remainder of the red.
for the page of red, that's
I'm
what.
sorry.
All right, anything else? Any other questions?
All right. Chairman, no more questions on that piece for procurement, and we're not doing any major purchases for the most part, but I don't know if Ms. Vicki Silver is still here, but she was the resident that came up earlier. She suggested probably about 2 or 3 months
Yes,
ago that we get a
that's
buzzer to open that door, so staff didn't have to get up and go back and forth. And so that buzzer, you probably noticed, has been installed and working, and that's recommendations to her credit, and also, I guess, speaks to the influence residents have when they participate in citizens communication. So that is behind us. We have properly procured that. We also have procured, that was a discussion last month, the company to do the environmental review for Elm Street. So that review has hit my inbox. I saw it this morning. I'll get that over to Chandra Taylor at the Little Rock Field office today to finish out that compliance review. And so in terms of contracts that's expiring, Mr. Wembley did say he did get a letter out to Design Group on yesterday. They are expiring at the end of November, and he would inform them of their 1-year option and how to do that, which is pretty basic, writing a letter to the board requesting that 1-year option. They get 2 1-year options, when they get the initial 3 years. So that has happened, and we'll move forward with the evaluation piece in time for the board to vote on whether they're going to renew or not.
What is that contract? What does Design Group do entirely for us?
Well, to the live streaming that we have right now and our website hosting.
I'd like to see a copy of that contract.
And any marketing that is required by the board. In the past, they've been instrumental in our project and making sure that we got folk to the table to participate in our different projects. But we should have a copy.
Yeah, sure we do, yeah.
Would you send that out to all of us?
Okay.
And speaking of doors, let's get this one right here fixed.
Okay.
You know what that is?
Was
You
particularly
know, it's boom.
particularly loud.
To keep it
Yeah,
quiet.
so
Okay.
ease
No, it
closed.
slams.
Yeah.
I know it, that's what I said, an arm is released to make it be quiet.
Okay.
You know, it's not on.
Okay. It's- Make a note to do that. But nothing major on the procurement and I did get a name, Chairman Lindsay, for grant consultant. I don't think I brought it downstairs with me on the development piece. But I did make the submissions that was required or asked of me when Ms. Jackie and Constance came and met with us on the RAD development piece for Homes of Granite Mountain and Madison Heights 1 and 2. So haven't heard back from that, but that has been turned in. And I will forward you the consultant name. And I'll try to gather a few more as well.
So again,
And I'll try to gather a few more recommendations for RAD development consultants.
okay. Development, huh?
Do we have anybody from Corbin?
I don't see them.
We did, what was that?
No, I don't see anybody from Gorman on the call or in the room.
Well, next month, there is an open house for Sunset. I drove by there and it really is
Beautiful.
beautiful. It's gonna look really, really nice.
When is it?
October the 27th,
Seven.
on a
And-
Friday.
Yeah, and the plan is that we're gonna set up booths and tables and hopefully that they'll be able to contact some of the residents in order to view the insides of the house. It won't be completely built, but they'll be able to see various stages of the building and that sort of thing. So they're gonna have tours to go along and sort of on the 27th.
Yeah, I went by myself and saw
Yeah.
where they did the demolition to where they're at now. And it's quite nice.
It's amazing,
I mean, it's
yeah.
real nice.
Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Need some of that, don't we?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yes, sir. Good stuff. All right. Is that it?
Oh, yes, sir. I don't have anything else under development.
Under employment, I'm going to defer to the director. I'm not aware of, from the committee that there's anything going on as far as employment is concerned.
In terms of employment, it's, we're doing the standard things that we do around here, and still conducting orientation and encouraging certifications among the housing specialists. Let me get some site going. We have several employees that are in training right now for those certifications. And I did print off a copy for you to see their names, because they are taking certifications very seriously, and we're trying to also create a climate where training is valued. So hopefully we'll be announcing people who have passed their tests and have received their housing specialist certifications within the next meeting or so. So we have about 8 people that are, well, this is completing their yardage training, but we have about 3 that either have expressed interest or have started taking their class for their certifications. But we did have 8 that completed their yardage training, which was critical because as new hires come on, they've got to learn how to use the system. And speaking of that, there's an add-on with Yardi, that will really streamline their process. And so I'll be bringing that back before you all to see if we can procure that, because I think that's going to go a long ways with streamlining both processes and training.
Mr. Chairman, just to point out, just stay in compliance with what we agreed to with HUD. There is a component that deals with employment as part of their curriculum.
Is there?
Most of what is recommended, we've already done. It recommended restructuring, and we did restructuring early on. In this matter that deals with the recommendation on the action plan, we also had done the management assessment plan to see how people were functioning in the different jobs. What else will be recommended? I'm not sure. But there were several items under employment that the plan from Mr. Landecker's office did require. But he also said that we would be working with other groups in making some of those decisions. So I want to make sure that we stay in compliance, not to say we're not doing anything, but we're working in conjunction with the recommendations made by HUD.
And we do have quite a few employees that will be rolling into their retirement plan on October 1. So we did have a meeting for that to get their paperwork and all signed up. Nothing more under employment.
Technology.
Just clear one at a time.
Is there?
So I guess Carlos is a stand-in for the technology report. Okay, go for it, Carlos.
No, my apologies. Eric, one positive with the buzz at the front door. And Miss Anthony just walked out. The kiosk.
Okay, well,
people can come in and actually go to the kiosk and apply for housing. So that's a major step for us, so we get more utilization out of those. And we're working to get a couple more components installed, but.
by components, what do you mean?
There's a few more things we would like the kiosk to be able
To do, so
Yes.
that would be available to the folks that come in.
That is correct.
Yeah, and we're trying to encourage the use of the actual kiosks. People are opting to apply for housing maybe at home or a device, somewhere else. But what we're doing now is when they pick up instructions on how to apply, we have all types of information on there to urge them to ask about the kiosk and let them know they can apply inside. They don't have to go to the public library or go to other venues if they don't have that computer access at the house. And so we're just really pushing for that. Some of the other things, we think landlords could possibly get some use out of it, or tenants could get some use out of it when they want to request a special inspection. So we're setting it up for that as well.
But the nice thing about it, especially with the people applying, they can get hands-on assistance with the kiosk.
I have one quick question.
Yes, sir.
It's about the internet.
Yes, sir.
I know that the towers have what they call Connect Homes. We did about 5-6 years ago, and that gives them the access to have internet for $9.95 a month, no tax and anything. People who have kids that are in Section 8 homes or whatever, are they able to attain that as well? Or is that, I was just wondering, is that the question? Because a lot of people who have kids that's in school can't really afford internet. And that would be a good access to be able to,
In the towers.
right,
Yeah.
for the child. I know now that AT&T and Xfinity, if you are on a government assistance like food stamps, Medicaid, you are able to obtain internet for $6.99 a month. And in some cases, if you qualify with what they call ADP, it's free. And I think the only requirement for that through AT&T is that you send them a picture of your food stamp card or Medicaid card. And I've had several people now where I live at now, they are getting the AT&T app for internet because it covers the whole house. It's not like where some of them just cover certain parts and you can only run certain things on them. But I was just wondering because I know people who are in Section 8 as well need internet that have kids. And like she said, they are unable to have internet. You have to come here. They can do stuff in the house, you know, as far as using the kiosk as well, you know. But I was just wondering because it's a good program, Connect Homes, $9.95 a month, no tax, and it's real good internet. I mean, you can run almost like 4 TVs, a computer, or anything like that on it. So I was just looking out for people who are in Section 8 homes that some kind of way we can educate them to the point that they know that it's out there. A lot of people don't know, you know. So I was just wondering.
Yeah, at some point, we were, and Commissioner Anthony, she came to one of your events, I can't think of her name right now in the program, but it's with the City of Little Rock, a connectivity program, we were given information.
Tracy's in the room. What y'all got over there, Tracy?
But I'm trying to blame, but she reached out to us and I invited her out there to Madison Heights and we were getting information about the very type of program you're talking about.
Okay.
So that we can get it out to clients. And we still have that information. We just need to make sure, we should probably strategically put it by the kiosks as well so that people can know
Yeah,
that
because I mean, if
option.
you need a contact number, I know a lady that runs. She's pretty much the salesperson for Connect Homes. Her name is Ms. Smith, and Ms. Smith is who people that I gave her number to people in the high rise to obtain that internet, and it's been in the high rises for about 5 or 6 years now. And I was on the board as well as that one for it's called Connect Homes. So I was just wondering, you know, because I know internet now is the biggest thing in a home. It's like a major utility bill now.
It's not a
Because
luxury.
we have people that do this and do that, kids as well. So
Thank you. Okay, I would have, okay, Maddie Long, that was her name, American Connectivity. Thank you, Starla. But yeah, the Affordable Connectivity Program, that's what it was called.
Yeah.
Affordable, yeah, so that's great. We were thinking along the same lines,
And I can
but,
also, like I said, I can also send you Ms. Smith's number
Okay.
and stuff. I'll text it to you.
okay, yeah, I'll look for that. Thank you.
Anything else?
That's it. Okay.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Well, I really don't have a report right now. I've been, other than, like I said, the internet thing, I've had several people reach out to me about the internet, especially family homes that have kids. And you never know, like now we're approaching winter. And when you approach winter, you have snow days. And schools do not close, but they have what's called virtual learning. And if you have internet and you have a computer, that's how they do their classes. My daughter, she did it last year. When they had the COVID out, schools were closed, that's how they did it. You know, they did virtual. So my thing was just to make sure that the kids are able to keep up in school and not fall behind. Make the internet you know, more affordable, educate the families to know what's out there as far as alternatives for internet and what they pay, what not to pay. So that's about my report.
Thank you, sir. Finance, I don't have anything either. The quad is a big thing. Getting those numbers and that sort of thing is number one, our priority. Director Benedicto, if you can make a note that what we need to do is find out, once that we have FY19, can we do multiple years at the same time, like, once you get 19, can we do 2021 or something? And that Corey, I guess, is you know, the source for that. But I kind of remember Landecker saying something like that too. If it is, I think that we need to, you know, if we can ever get 19 to proceed in order to get those years up. Other than that, old business, Gorman or the design group? All right. Anything else?
I have a question, sir.
Yes, sir.
If we posted for resident board,
Yes, sir.
how,
Well,
have we
it's-
posted it in the communities, or what have we
No,
done?
we have, yeah, we did. We did, and we have a candidate, but the city has not acted on
Well, I understand.
mine, his, or Dr.
I'm just wondering.
Yeah,
if-
yeah, it's up there.
But have we posted
we
in
have
every
a-
community, so that we have for people that may be,
Yeah, we have a lady, her name is
Pat Ward.
Pat Ward, and I sent you her resume.
I didn't get it.
Yeah, you did. I sent it out. Did you? Yeah, but I can send it again,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you send it again?
I will, yeah. Like I
Okay,
said-
I'll agree with you, I got it. Please send it again.
Yeah, okay, I will. But, I mean, we're waiting on, you know, the word from the mayor on these.
I understand.
Okay?
Just want to make sure if we
Yeah, we.
follow procedure.
Yes, sir, we have.
Good.
Can I get
Hate to
a-
see Lewis leave, but
It's like,
Well, they keep
We
getting
may
better
be
and
on.
better.
Yeah.
We had Ms. Hance, lady that was before you,
I
and,
thought
oh,
Miss
Miss
Polite.
was.
Miss Polite,
yeah.
yeah,
Miss Polite.
we did last
So
month.
they keep getting better and better.
all right.
We tried to. That was hard
I
to
left
follow
word to Miss
behind.
Polite. I invited her to.
Now, Miss Polite,
I mean,
deceased.
yeah, Miss Pat,
Ward.
in order, yeah, Miss Ward to attend, but we may have scared her off. Anyway, you know.
okay.
Anything else?
No?
Is there a need for executive session,
Executive session for 5 minutes.
to discuss personnel? matters?
Personnel issue. Thank you.
Need help?
Yeah. Thank you. Here, I got it, here.
This is ready.